Hello and welcome back to Radiator Springs Raceway. I'm here with Francesco Bernoulli, and I like what the description of him says in the game. No race car says I'm number one like him. It's even painted on his hood. Well, today I'm going to add the terrain for the cliffs along the base of the Cadillac Ridge. And we'll come into the editor here, and I'll just show you where I'm talking about. We're talking about the Cadillac Ridge over this way. And so we've built some terrain that's up above the rest of the plain here. And so all of the terrain under this track is what we're going to be putting in. This will include the tunnel, the waterfall, the bridge, and the canyon jump. Now, my inspiration for this part of the toy box came from the original Cars movie, when Lightning McQueen and Sally took a fun scenic drive up to the Wheelwell Motel, which sat on a cliff overlooking the valley below. I tried to recreate the path that they took out of town, alongside Radiator Cap Mountain, toward the cliffs, where they drove through some trees at the base of the cliffs, followed some switchbacks up the cliff face, drove through a couple of tunnels, over a bridge that crossed in front of a waterfall, and up the other side of the canyon to the motel. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough memory to recreate the entire road or all of the detail along the road, so I reduced it down in scale and tried to capture the key features of the route. So as we begin, come out of Spark mode, I'm going to start with this terrain block. I've already styled these to be the Cars theme, which I showed you last time when I placed the other terrain down below. And I'm going to line up this first block here. It's not the largest one, but the next to the largest. And I'm going to line it up with this piece of road right here. That stretch of road is the same length as this. And I'll come into the editor here and just give you a little bit closer look. You can see I'm lining it up with that seam on the road and that seam on the road. So the road is sitting right up next to that. Let me pick that back up and put it down. And I'm going to put a second one of these down right over here next to it. Like that. And then we're going to grab the next size larger and put this right back here, following up the side of that slope. And I like that because that gives a nice solid piece of terrain up the side of that road without any seams. This is the only seam that you'll see. So I like that a lot. I try to reduce the seams whenever I can, just to make that a little bit nicer. And then this piece lines up right with that downward ramp that you see there. So I'm going to line this up over here off to the left a little bit from the one we just put down. And you'll see it's lined up with the edge of the terrain block there on the left. And that's where we're going to put that piece. And then we'll put another one over here right next to that. Okay. All right, and then we're going to scroll over here to the small terrain block. And just to complete this side. Now over here, if I try to put another large piece of terrain like that, it's going to stick way off the block here into nothingness. So in this case, I did decide to use just 4 of these blocks like that. And here you do see some seams on the right, or on the left rather, and there's not any way around that. So there's our road going up into the canyon. And as I mentioned last time, I didn't have the memory to do all the switchbacks, so I just chose a direct route to go up there instead. Alright, so now we're going to come over here, and you'll notice this piece of terrain lines right up with the edge of that road on the right. And that's actually one of the reasons why I laid this out this way on purpose. As I mentioned in my other video on the Hawaiian track, I do all of the terrain and the racetrack at the same time while I'm designing. So I try to make sure all of this fits in here. We're going to put 2 of those like that, and 1 more So 3 of them total coming out. And then we have this gap here, but we're going to fill that with this block right here. And I'll line that up with the front edge of the terrain there. And we'll put another one right over here. Okay. And at that point, we can start putting in some decorations here. Because we have all of that. And don't worry about the gap in the middle, because the player is not going to see that or this hole down here. We're going to end up covering those up. But let's go ahead and start on the upper part of this first. And just for some spacers, I'm going to come down here to the little terrain cube. We're going to come down to the edge of the road piece right here. And I'm going to drop it just like that. We're going to put one behind it and then 2 more. And I'm just using these temporarily for spacers. And then we're going to scroll to the left. We're looking for these canyon pieces. And the one that I want is this wide and short canyon wall, and we're going to line it up right with that left edge of that leftmost terrain cube. So just like that. And then we can delete the little spacers. And the purpose of those spacers is just to leave enough room here, because the player is going to be coming up this ramp and hitting this turn blind. So I want to give them some room to slide past the road, because that's likely to happen. Okay, and then we're going to scroll over to the right to this large short canyon curve. We're going to drop that right up here next to that, lined up with it. And then we'll put another one on the other side, just like that. And then we'll pick up this short canyon curve, and just to put a nice little finishing touch on this, that covers up that little crooked terrain seam back here and makes it kind of look like that could go on longer in that direction. Alright, and then we'll come over here and we're going to pick up the short canyon wall and put that down right here, just like this. And then spin this around and drop this right over here like that. So now we have a nice border around this loop. And then we'll come over here, excuse me, and pick up this short canyon curve, place that there. My goodness, I've had a lot of clearing of my throat in my videos lately, and I apologize for that. Coming into spring with allergy season, so that's what's going on there. It's just my asthma kicking in. Get a lot of gunk in my lungs. Alright, and then this large short canyon curve goes right here like that. And we'll place one more short canyon wall right over here. And that takes us up to the tunnel. Alright, so that is looking pretty good. Now for the tunnel, let's see, we're going to need to scroll over to the left to the cave pieces, and I'm looking for this cave wall piece. And I want to line this up with the edge of that block we just put down, but it needs to come out so that it's right over the center of the road, like that. And I'm going to put these 2 wide, like this. We'll flip it around, place it like that. So there is our tunnel. And then I'm going to come down below and pick this piece up Oh, hey, I need to upgrade Francesco. And we'll go to the right to... Nope, that piece is too big. That piece is the one we want. We're going to drop this right in here like that, which closes up that little gap. And then we'll come pick this piece up again, flip it around, and we're going to come over to the right and line it up with the edge of the block we just put down, just like that. All right. And sorry for the little bit of pauses there. I'm just kind of looking at my screen grabs that I took from the original course, just to make sure that I capture and recreate what I've done exactly. So we'll put 2 of those canyon walls down, and at this point we'll go ahead and stop before we come around that curve. Because where the terrain goes underneath here is going to largely depend on where it ends up as we start building it out, as we start building out the cliff face from over here. So we're going to begin actually on this side back here. And we're going to come over to the right to these cliff faces. And I'm going to use this large cliff. We're going to put this right up here next to the terrain, like that. And we'll do the same thing on this end, like that. Now I could put this all the way down, but it'll look really repetitive. So to kind of break it up, I'm going to use this climbing cliff and alternate that. Even though I'm not going to be using the climbing aspect of it, it helps to break that up a little bit so that it doesn't look quite so repetitive. And then over here, let's use the smaller cliff face here, because we have that little half-width section in there that we got to put in. And actually, I think I would rather, I'm going to undo that. We're going to put this one down. We'll put that one there next to that. That helps break up that cliff face. And then we'll put this little corner piece in here like that. And that puts just a really nice finishing edge on that that looks really good. All right, coming around the corner, we're going to put the cliff edge followed by the climbing cliff, followed by a couple of cliff edges. And it doesn't matter quite so much if it's repetitive back here, because the player's not going to get as good a look at it as they are on that front section. So 2 of those is good. I'll go ahead and put another climbing cliff in here though, just to break that up a little bit. I'll put this one here, and then we're going to put a half cliff in right here as we come and start that turn. And then the cliff corner goes on that. So this cliff corner is going to sit right in this cubby hole just like that. And you'll notice it just misses the edge of the road. So that looks like that was perfectly designed just for that. And I like that. All right, and then we'll put another partial cliff piece here, followed by another turn like that, followed by a corner. And then the only piece that's going to work under here, we can put this under here, but as you'll notice, it puts the rocks in the middle of the road, and that's just going to cause a problem for the cars. So we need to use the cliff piece here. I'm going to put 2 of those down. This is where the waterfall is going to go. So we'll put a corner in there, put a corner in here. Just making sure, yeah. And then we'll go ahead and put 2 more of these on this side. And so now there is our bridge. And the waterfall will be behind that. This corner will go in here like that. And before we continue with the cliff down that way, let's go ahead and fill in the terrain. So I'm going to pick this piece up, put it down, we'll grab the next size smaller, and we now know that this has to sit right in there like that. And we're going to put a second one right next to it. We'll go to the next size smaller and tuck that right in here. Like that. Okay. And that looks really good. All right. Now we'll put in the tiny terrain block, and I got to put this in just because I'm going to end up with another gap over here. So we're going to line this up with the edge of those cliff pieces underneath the road. And I need to put 2 of these down. Followed by this really large piece. And I need to line that up with the front edge of those 2 blocks that I just put down. That's going to sit in there just like that. And then the next size smaller is going to sit on the edge of this block over there, lined up with the left edge, just like that. Okay, so there is the next section. And now once again, before I can put down terrain under this curve, I got to figure out where the cliff is going to go. So we're going to come back over here to the cliff, pick that up and put it down. And then we'll fill in the cliff edge along this side. Okay. Now, I'm going to do something here with this corner piece that I'm going to put down next. And to explain what I'm doing, I need it to line up with the edge of these roads over here, because I'm going to be putting blocks down to cover up those gaps. And so it's not going to look really apparent what I'm going to do right now, but you'll see in a few minutes what's going to happen. So instead of putting this piece right here, I'm going to put it a half a block, or actually a full block, just like that. So it's actually halfway onto that cliff piece on the left, which means that this narrow cliff ledge is going to be sticking out a little bit. Players are not going to notice that as they're coming up the road and they're going around this corner. They're going to be looking away from that. So the odds are they're not going to be looking back this way and see that there's a weird little thing happening there. But this is necessary in order to get the cliffs to go where I want them to go. So we're going to put down a cliff, climbing cliff next to that. And then this cliff next to that. And then the cliff corner next to that. And now I know where these terrain blocks have to go underneath that corner. So we'll come over here and pick this piece up and put it down. And then this is going to sit in here like this up against that cliff corner, like so. And then the small terrain block lines right up with the edge of that downward slope. So that's perfect. We got to put 2 of these across. Okay. And then what you're going to notice, if we come over to this long tiny terrain block now, as I put this up here, you'll notice that lines up with that terrain block in the back. So I have enough room here to put a block down to cover up the edge of that road. And that's, again, really important. because even though we're going to have some cliff faces covering up the left edge of this, again, if the player or the game tried to snap the cars down to that bottom track, we want to make sure that those gaps are covered up. Okay. And then the next size larger is going to go on the other side over here, like that. And there we go. And at this point we're going to have our canyon jump, so that's as far as I'm going to take that. So let's go ahead and fill in the cliff face along the front edge of this. So I'll pick that up and put it down. And now we can put that in. Let's see. Yeah. Make sure I do this right. Alright, so this piece will go in here like that. And then we're going to put down the climbing cliff. Down one of these and one of these. And there we go. Okay, so there's the bottom level for that area. And that looks pretty good. Okay. Now before we move on to the canyon jump, let's go ahead and finish up this area over here. So I'm going to pick this piece up and put it down. And again, I'm doing that just because it saves from having to scroll a lot in the drawer to find these terrain pieces, because there's a lot of terrain in the drawer. But we're going to come over here and place this here like this. And then we're going to place this here like that. And at this point, I want to raise the cliff because we're going to be putting a waterfall over there, so we need to build up the cliffs around that. And so I kept this low because I wanted to kind of see the sky in the background. But now I don't really have a choice. And so what I'm going to do is come over here to this top right canyon wall, and this will provide a nice little transition. So we'll place that on top. And then we're going to come to the large canyon outer curve. I'm sorry for clearing my throat so much. And that's going to sit in there just like that. Man. So that is the same diameter as this. It just goes up higher. So we'll place that in there like that. And then come over to this small canyon curve, and we're going to put this on the end like that, followed by this canyon outer wall there. Okay. Alright, now at this point we want the waterfall. So let's go over to the left. We have to scroll a little ways to come to this medium waterfall. I don't know why they call it a medium, because it's a huge piece of terrain, but we're going to line this up with the edge of that piece of terrain we just dropped down, just like that. And then we'll go ahead and put the waterfall end on the front of that, like that. So there's the waterfall, about as close as I can get it from the game, or from the original movie. And I can't really... I could perhaps mess around with this terrain here and try to put a pool down there where the water actually goes, but that takes up memory and you don't really need it because the player is never going to see that. Again, this is a race course. They're going to be going by this area so fast and not looking down below, so we don't have to worry about that. Okay, let's pick up this little corner piece to get us back to that part of the drawer. And we're going to go to the right to this little short canyon curve. And I'm going to place this just like that So you'll notice it's on the terrain seam there on the right and along the front edge. And that's going to sit in there just like that. And then this small corner piece can sit in here to plug that gap, like that. We'll grab the wide and short canyon wall, put this over here, followed by the next one shorter, and the large canyon curve. And you'll notice once again that keeps it from being right up next to the edge of the road, gives the player a little bit of a grace period as they slide around that corner, which I think is really helpful. At least for me, since I'm not such a good driver. Alright, so that little piece there just as a spacer, and then we can put our large canyon piece in here like that. So that's looking pretty good. I like how that's turning out. Okay, and then back to this piece. Put one of those in, followed by one of these, followed by the corner piece, followed by that. And that is now right there on the front edge of that ramp piece. We're going to drop another one right across the way, like that. And then a long piece to cover this up, that gap there underneath the road, like that. All right, let's go down underneath and pick this piece up, put it down, come over to the right and pick up this piece, and actually I need the next larger one. We're going to put this down for the edge of the wall on that side, like that. And then once again we're going to pick up this little corner piece, which gets us back to this part of the drawer. And just to kind of put a nice finishing edge on this, we're going to put down that piece, followed by this piece. And then it doesn't look quite so square as you're coming up at it and around this corner. So that looks a little bit better. And that gets us to the canyon jump. All right, so for the gap underneath, we have a couple of issues here. I can't leave this completely open because I have this section of road under here, which I'm trying to hide. So I need to put something in front of here that hides it, but I can't build something up because the whole point of this is to have a canyon to jump over. So there has to be a canyon here. So I got to build it up part way, but I can't build it up the entire way. So I'm going to pick up this piece back here that I put down, the long tiny terrain block. We're going to bring this out and drop it down, and that will cover up that seam along that side of the road. But that's as high as we're going to take that. Okay, and then over here we're going to grab this, and we're actually going to lift this up just a tad. I'm going to put this little piece underneath of it. And let me think here. I think I've got an issue. Hold on just a moment. Yes, I do. All right. So this section of road that I put down before, I actually need to raise this up one block. So it needs to come up like this. And we got to do that up here as well. That's better. Okay. And I did that on purpose because I didn't want this to be too far above the level of the road where you're going to end up. And so what happens is now if I pick this piece up and put it down and we come over and grab that, let's see, this piece here, lining it up with that corner there and then putting it down like this. And so it's lined up with this piece, and you'll notice it comes all the way down here right before the ramp starts down. Okay? And it sticks out a little bit over on this end. And it's up again a little bit higher just because it looks better that way. I'm trying to make that canyon look a little bit more, what's the word? Taller? Deeper? Alright, and then this piece here will drop down on this end like that. Whoops. It's got to clear the road, so it's got to be off over here like that. And we'll put this smaller piece underneath. There we go. So now we've got our little tunnel under there in case the game tries to bring the cars back down to the main track. And they can get out and keep racing. They won't get stuck. Okay. Just kind of reviewing my notes here, sorry. All right. So let's go ahead and pick this piece up once again. We're going to come up here, set this down next to the road like this. And then I'm going to go ahead and drop it down one block and put another one in here, like that. And we're going to put another one out here. Let me just set it here for the moment. I think I'm going to have to move that, but we'll see here shortly. Yeah. Okay. So then this piece here needs to sit up next to the road like this. We'll drop another piece down like that. And then this piece along the front. And this other one has to line up with that. So we need to slide this out half a block. That was close. Okay. And then I've got that gap under there, so let's go ahead and plug that. Like so. And there's our tunnel going out. Okay, so there's the basic terrain for the landing of the canyon jump. And now we can go ahead and put the cliffs around that. And let's go ahead and pick this piece up first. And then grab the next size smaller. And we're going to come over here and put these on the front. Like that. And the next size smaller can sit over here like this. That puts a nice finishing edge on there. And then for the wall, the canyon wall itself, let's go ahead and pick up this piece, which gets us back to that part of the drawer. And we're going to put one down right here on the edge of that terrain block, followed by a climbing cliff, followed by another large cliff, and a second large cliff, and the corner. Like that. So that looks pretty good. And then this looks really flat on this side though, so what we're going to do as we finish that off is we'll come over to the left, and we got to go a ways to get there. But we have these pieces here, and this will put a nice finishing edge on this that the player will glimpse as they go across the gap. And so that just looks a lot more finished. And it also puts a little something under that road. So when the player jumps across, they're not really going to see the road underneath, as you can see, because they can't see straight down. So it looks from their standpoint like it's a straight cliff. All right. Well, we're past the half-hour mark, so I think that's a good stopping point for today. I'll be back on Monday to finish up the build exercise for this toy box, and then on Wednesday I'll add the logic for the track features and obstacles, and I'll put the finishing touches on it. Before I sign off, I want to thank all of my subscribers and followers who regularly leave comments and positive feedback on my videos. I really appreciate your kind words and encouragement. That's what keeps me going. So if you enjoyed my video today, please hit the like button and leave a comment to let me know. Also, you can subscribe to my channel by clicking my photo in the lower right corner if you haven't already done that, and then you won't miss the next episode when it airs. You can also follow me on my blog. Sometimes I post things there that you won't find here. Well, that's all for me today. Have a great weekend.